Now we've got Scott Bauer. He's joining us for a look at a handful of stocks that he's got his eye on. Scott, it's good to have you back. Let's talk solar stocks into new highs and pointed to the skies. Let's begin with SPWR on earnings. Talk to us about what got investors so excited.
Yeah, actually blowout earnings. They were looking for a much larger than expected loss that they had. Not making money yet.
Okay.
But their second half of the year guidance was upped. So investors loved that, and they actually came out and said they're supposed to be at break even by the second part of the year. So obviously a really, really nice pop in the stock based more on the guidance there, Ben, than the actual results.
All right, now Scott, we're going to talk about a couple of other individual names, but I'm going to take it a step further and just kind of take a look at the ETF. I've got the TAN up right now, recently up to 31.36. This is a good representation of the stocks that we're going to be looking at here, not just ticker symbol what we just took to SPWR, but also let's talk FSLR. Let's talk First Solar, also on the move higher to a new high as well.
Yeah, and their earnings come out after the close. They're looking for 3 cents. And, you know, the market maker expected move here is about $5. Pretty significant, pretty volatile. If that move is to the upside, there is some very, very heavy technical resistance right around the 70 area here. So if there is, you know, continued positivity there, if their guidance perhaps is like what SPWR's is, I wouldn't doubt that move higher, but watch for that resistance. Interesting today though, Ben, you're seeing a lot of call buying come into the market on First Solar. It's about 3-to-1 call to put ratio today.
Was it aggressive type buying where they're taking the offer, or was that people selling into some of the bids, do you think, Scott?
No. It's definitely aggressive on the buy side.
All right, let's talk. Go ahead. You were going to say?
No, I was going to say, you know, especially after the reports from SPWR.
Yeah, you'd expect that. And again, I'm seeing a reflection of that in terms of the ETF as well. Let's talk VSLR, though, on the move as well. Another stock, a solar stock, into a new high today.
It is. That one, for me, is a little bit more difficult to really get a handle on.
Okay.
Option volume isn't as great.
Interesting.
And, you know, when you get that cheap of a dollar price stock, for me anyway, it's a little bit more difficult to handle.
Yeah,
However, you know, it probably is going to follow the momentum of what First Solar does. It's already following, you know, what S-Power did this morning. And if First Solar comes out good also, you know, it'll probably move lockstep with it.
Yeah, up and above the $9 level today, up to $9.02. It's currently trading up on the day by 4 1/3%. And then, as I mentioned again, the ETF, again, that's ticker symbol TAN, that's currently trading up on the day by 3% here. And I said it was up to 31.36 to a new high as well. Now, Scott, you've got your eye on a couple big names that are set to report today on the close. U.S. Steel, ticker symbol X. What are investors going to be looking for?
Well, boy, oh boy, I'm wondering, you know, how this recent announcement that President Trump just came out with is going to affect the result. They're not going to affect the results, but how is the street? How are investors going to take these results? I would think it's got to be pretty darn measured, Ben. You know, even if the results are good, even if guidance was already set maybe to be positive, boy, I would have to be pretty skeptical about that. And for this thing to move higher, they are just going to have to blow the doors out of these numbers and get some really, really good guidance.
Yeah, this tweet is going to kind of derail some of investor sentiment in terms of focus only on earnings. It's going to raise some eyebrows and some concerns in terms of potential for third quarter and the impact that they could feel there. I'm actually looking at the ES right now. I noticed it just traded down to 29.50, Scott. Well off highs from earlier today. We were up above the 3,000 level earlier. Let's talk a little bit about another stock that's going to be reporting on the close today, Arista, ticker symbol ANET. What are we going to be looking for there?
You know, the market likes round numbers here, and this thing it's trading really in the middle of its range, but it's got some momentum behind it. I wouldn't be surprised if we get up towards that 300 number here. I know that's a little bit beyond what the market is expecting for a market maker move, but like I said, there's some big momentum behind it, and not a lot of options trade in it, but just looking technically here, again, that 300 number looks like it could be a magnet to me.
Scott, it looks like we're kind of stuck in the middle for the most part. 331.27 is the high, and down to that low that we saw in the first week of January around the 188 level. Is this the kind of thing, these earnings, I should say, is this the kind of news or kind of a catalyst that could provide that lift? You're looking at the 300 level. I'd imagine if we could get up above that, you'd be talking about, and you'd have your sights set on that high, the 331 area.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Especially a stock like this, which, again, there's not a lot of liquidity on the option side,
okay.
so it will tend to move a little bit heavier. And again, any sort of positivity here, I think 300 is going to be a magnet.
All right, Scott, it may not necessarily apply directly to Arista or some of the names so much directly in terms of what we talked about, but I just want to get your thoughts on the Trump tweet coming out and basically where does it leave things? I mean, it seemed like we were potentially making some progress, although the details were kind of few and far between. This just sort of really is an aggressive approach, basically, is the way I think of it.
I think it really muddies the water for a few reasons. Number one, you had Powell talk about, the inherent risk of the tariffs. I don't think he knew or anybody else knew that this tweet was coming out today, obviously. I do, however, think that there probably was a situation that if the Fed had lowered 50 basis points yesterday, we would not have seen this decision today. So I think this really obviously adds volatility to the marketplace, but also really adds kind of a big question mark into how much the Fed is being, or how much independence the Fed has. We know that that's been a hot topic for the better part of a year. Now I think that has really come to the forefront again because you've got politics, in my opinion, really now trying to dive in and drive into the heart of what the Fed is doing. How does this affect in the long run? I think this sell-off today is well overdone.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely overdone. It's an overreaction to this tweet.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we're going to rally back later today or maybe tomorrow. I think it's a good opportunity to buy any of these big caps that might be selling off. And I'm looking at an Apple, which you would think, Ben, they'd be directly related, right, to this China thing. They're not getting hit too hard here.
All right, well, definitely something to watch, and it wouldn't be the first time that we'd rallied after the dust settled from one of these tweets. You mentioned some of the question marks, Scott. That's why we brought you on, was to straighten some of those question marks out. Traders, that's Scott Bauer. He's the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. He's joining us with a couple stocks that are on his radar. Coming up next is